it's the one educated artist named Toppy here, and today I'm doing a Q&A. Why, you ask? Because back in November of 2022, I managed to finish my webcomic, Fallen Wings, which you can check out in the link in the description, and I really recommend you do it because I'm literally going to be spoiling my comic in this video. To celebrate this, I decided to host a Q&A about Fallen Wings and some other stuff I'm doing, and oh boy, I actually got quite a few good questions answered here, eh? Anyway, enough of me ranting and rambling here, I gotta get to this video, starting with question 1. How did you get the idea of Fallen Wings? The idea of Fallen Wings originally came from when me and my friend were talking about how if our two pilot characters were to interact, how would that go down? And well, long story short, that interaction led to Baron breaking his legs after bailing out of his plane because his plane got shot down. At the time, I didn't have any real stories going on, with the exception of this one story called Wings, and we don't talk about Wings, it was terrible. So instead of working on Wings at the time, I decided it would be kind of fun to make this interaction me and my friend had into a full-on comic, and thus, Fallen Wings was born. With the only difference being that I replaced what my friend's characters would be with my own characters, since it fitted better with the story. Anyway, the next question I got here is, how long did it take for me to research for Fallen Wings? Researching for Fallen Wings took quite a bit of time, especially given when I started working on it, I didn't really know a whole lot about World War I, let alone aviation in World War I. So a lot of my research was trying to figure out what planes would have been flying around at the time, other random details like did pilots even have parachutes, and a lot of other stuff. Although now that I have hindsight now, little me really should have done a little bit more research into some Canadian uniforms at the time, because how did I give my medic 2 armbands? And why do their designs keep changing? They look more British than Canadians. Man, no wonder why Baron couldn't tell if they were Canadians or not. But hey, you learn from your mistakes, am I right? And I now have a better understanding of World War I, so hopefully stuff like that doesn't happen more often in my stories. The next question I got coming up is, who was your personal favorite character? That is a very hard one to answer, as I love all of my characters, even if some of them are terrible people. If I had to choose one, it would be Jim. As not only was he a lot of fun to draw and was a lot of fun to write about, but I also like how throughout the story, Jim changes throughout the story. Like, just compare Jim from how he started to where he ends. What a change. For this next question, I'm combining 2 questions together as they're pretty similar in nature. What was your favorite part? And also, what is the page you're most proud of? So, to answer the first part, my favorite part would have to be all of the No Man's Land scenes. It was a nice change of scenery from what we've seen before, and also probably had some of the most intense parts of Fallen Wings, as good old Baron almost dies. As for my favorite page, it would have to be this one. Not only is it finally a moment where no one is suffering and dying, but I'm also proud with how the background turned out, even if it took an unbelievable amount of time, especially with trying to figure out how to color this thing. The next question is, what was the hardest moment you faced making Fallen Wings? Hilariously enough, despite it being my favorite part, the No Man's Land scenes were a nightmare to draw. Why, you ask? Well, let's just say, when you have a bunch of pretty difficult poses to draw, combined with the fact that now you have to keep track of a bunch of Germans who are charging up the Canadian line, and also trying to keep track of what I'd drawn in the background before to make sure it's not going to cause a continuity error, and so much more, like making sure the hole looks like a hole, it starts to add up. Anyway, the next question I got up here is, what's up with the whole Phoenix bird thing? Yes, the Phoenix bird. Well, I won't give away every detail regarding the Phoenix quite yet, as I have plans to explain that in the future. I am willing to share a little bit of detail about it. One detail I am willing to share is that the Phoenix bird that we see in Fallen Wings was pretty much heavily inspired off of the idea of what can possibly happen if a phoenix bird dies. And if you don't know, I would recommend Googling it, as it probably explains it better than I could ever. Another little thing to note here is also that whole ending scene with Baron and the phoenix, it's honestly up to interpretation. Whether you want to see it as Baron just simply seeing stuff as he slowly regains conscious, or he literally died, or something else, is really up to how you interpret it, which, hey, if you have any, feel free to share them down below. I would love to hear them. Next question here is, are you interested in other wars? Well, I'm always willing to learn more about other parts of history, including different wars, and yeah, I have interest in other moments like the Second War and, of course, the legendary Emo War. I won't lie and say that a lot of my other interests, both in history and outside, tend to not necessarily really be war-related. Some of my other interests include aviation, various other folklores and stuff from other countries, and the Teleclin. Of course, there's way more things I'm interested in those three things in World War I, but you get the idea. Up next, we got, will you ever get Fallen Wings printed? With how Fallen Wings is currently like as of me making this video, no, absolutely no. There's a lot of problems with Fallen Wings at the moment, which include, but are not limited to, the very old outdated art in the earlier pages. The pages aren't even in the proper size to be printed in, and oh god, all the grammar mistakes. However, I do have plans to one day go back and redraw all of the Fallen Wings pages. By doing that, I'll finally have them in the proper size, and hey, we'll maybe have a printed version of Fallen Wings then. Although that will be quite a while, as it's not quite a top priority for me at the moment. But it's definitely something I have plans for. Anyway, next question. Would you ever do a professional comic dub? Wait, what do you mean? I already done one already. It's totally professional and I totally didn't rush it, and I paid the voice actors with exposure. Okay, in all seriousness though, as cool as it would be to have a comic dub done, I'm not sure if Fallen Wings would be the best idea, as Fallen Wings has a crap ton of spelling and grammar mistakes in it. And also, I'm not quite sure where you would even look for voice actors. And again, similar to me printing out Fallen Wings, it's not necessarily a top priority for me at the moment, as I'm working on other stuff at the moment, which, hey, speaking of which, will there be a sequel, and if so, what would it be called? I'm very happy to say there is indeed a sequel coming. It's going to be called Broken Wings. I'm still currently writing and plotting out Broken Wings at the moment, so it's probably still going to be a bit of time before you see it. But I'm super excited to tell the next tale in this tale of stories, as, well, we'll get to see what happens to poor old Baron. Oh, and speaking of Baron, do the main trio meet up again? And do Baron and Jim stay as buddies? I can safely say, yes, the trio will meet up at some point in Broken Wings. How exactly? Well, I'm not gonna tell you. I'm not gonna spoil parts of Broken Wings. As for if Baron and Jim stay as buddies, well, it's hard to say right now as they're separated at the moment, but I can definitely assure you guys, they haven't forgotten the events of Fallen Wings. And as the final question, how many more comics will come after Fallen Wings? Well, I have 4 other comics in the works, but they're all in the writing phase still. As I mentioned before, I'm currently still working on the Fallen Wings sequels. But I'm also working on some other stories, one being called Two Armies, which is a story that is set in the alternate world of the 1910s. I'm also working on a World War II story called Over the Windmills. It's a horror story that is set in the Netherlands in 1944. My last comic that I'm working on, which hopefully will come out later this year as I'm almost done writing that comic, is called Dardanelles, which follows a group of Anzac soldiers as they're trying to not die in Gallipoli. Maybe one day I'll make a video explaining these projects a bit more in detail than this video, and I definitely plan to keep you guys updated on what's going on, but that's all I can say for now. And well, that's it everyone. Hopefully this video answers all of your questions. A big thanks to those who left a question for this video. However, if you still have any questions, feel free to leave them below in the comments and I will be happy to answer them. Again, if you want to read Fallen Wings, I've linked it down below. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time, see ya whenever I do a video that has my voiceover in it, because I don't know when I'm gonna do that again.